This is an examination of Awa Kenzo, the Japanese archery master, who transformed his martial art into a profound spiritual practice. His core argument was that the true target isn't external, it's found within the archer.
The heart of his system is Daisha Dokyo, which translates to the Great Shooting Way teaching. In this view, archery is not a sport, it's a way, a discipline for forging the spirit. So hitting the bullseye becomes secondary. The primary goal is to use the act of shooting to purify your mind and body, and, in the end, to perceive your own true nature.
To understand this system, it's necessary to first understand the man who created it.
Kawa Kenzo's life followed a distinct trajectory. He began practicing archery in 1899. After moving to Sendai, he went through a period of extreme hardship. Still, his skill was undeniable. By 1917, he was known as the best technical archer in Japan, a 100 shots, 100 bullseyes master. Then, around 1920, a significant shift occurred. His focus moved from the external target to an internal spiritual quest.
Kenzo's own writing captures this change. He makes a key distinction when he writes, "shoot" with a capital S. He is signaling that he's no longer talking about just a physical action. This is about a deeper spiritual act, one that fundamentally redefined his entire practice.
So what is the mechanism of this system? How did Kenzo structure it for spiritual development?
This comparison highlights the fundamental shift in his thinking. Technical archery focuses on the external target. Kenzo's Dashidokyo turns that focus inward, to the self. Hitting the mark becomes less important than seeing one's own nature. And the bow itself is transformed. It's no longer just a weapon, but a tool for spiritual purification. And this wasn't some vague philosophy. Kenzo established a very structured path. He created these levels of shooting that move from the purely physical, proper form, conditioning the body, all the way up to the metaphysical. The progression is clear. You start with form and body, move to release and breath, achieve a unity between mind and body, and this leads to the final goal, enlightenment, or seeing your nature. Just as crucial as the steps to take were the faults to avoid. Kenzo's list is revealing because the faults are almost all mental or emotional obstacles. He warns against worrying about results or being concerned with skill or what others think. He even cautions against actively trying to be enlightened. From his perspective, these are all functions of the ego, and they're the internal hurdles one has to clear before they can truly shoot. The central principle here is liberation. To practice this way, you must let go of the very desires that drive conventional archery, the desire to aim, the desire to shoot, and especially the desire to hit the target. The process was everything. The outcome was irrelevant. Kenzo's ideas were radical for their time, but they had a significant impact. We can trace his legacy from a small dojo in Sendai all the way out to the rest of the world. For much of the world, Kenzo's philosophy became known through one specific channel, his German student, Eugene Herrigel. Herrigel was a philosophy professor who wrote a book in 1953 called Zen in the Art of Archery. That book became a classic, and it was the main vehicle that introduced Western audiences to Kenzo's ideas. But his influence wasn't limited to an international audience. Within Japan, Kenzo's following was huge. His organization, the Daishadokyo, had over 14,000 enrolled students, and these were spread across 97 different branches, so this was a major movement in its own right. This kind of influence naturally led to some legendary stories about his skills. For instance, there's the story that in 1925, he shot an arrow right through a light bulb without breaking the glass. Another tale claims his kiai, a single shout, was powerful enough to scare off escaped convicts from his dojo. Whether these accounts are literal fact or myth, they point to the immense power and control people believed he had. However, the narrative around Awa Kenzo isn't one-sided. He was a deeply complex and controversial figure who faced significant criticism. This brings us to the contradictions of the man. There were two very different sides to Awa Kenzo. In the dojo, he was known as a demon. His students described him as impatient and incredibly demanding. His shouts were said to be like the roar of a lion. But outside the dojo, a different person emerged. He was known to buy noodles for his poorer students, he would refuse payment for lessons, and in one case, he even gave a precious sword to a student he had frightened. His ideas were definitely not accepted by everyone. The traditional archery establishment viewed his spiritual focus as a corruption of the art. His teachings were called occult by critics. The opposition got so intense that at public demonstrations, people would actually throw stones at him. He was an incredibly polarizing figure.
This leads to perhaps the most significant contradiction. The man whose international fame was built almost entirely on the book by his German student, well, that same man, Kenzo, reportedly held a pretty low opinion of foreigners. He's quoted as saying that Western culture was just too materialistic to really understand the way. It's a major tension that complicates that popular story of the wise Eastern master and his devoted Western student.
And that brings us to the final question his legacy raises. Kenzo was, without a doubt, a visionary who redefined a martial art. But he was also a difficult, demanding, and contradictory person. So the question his life poses is this: can a teaching's value be separated from the complexities of the teacher who created it?